So these first couple here, we're going to be practicing with exponents without a calculator. So you could think of this one two ways. You can think of it, so you take the denominator, the square root of 16. I need to get a smaller pen here. So the square root of 16 cubed, or you can think of it 16 to the 1/2 cubed. So square root, so we got 4 cubed. This one, 16 to the half. What number squared gives you 16 is 4. So we have 4 cubed again, which gives us 64. So 16 to the 1/4, that's equivalent to the 4th root of 16. So what number to the 4th power gives you 16 is 2. 27 to the 2/3. Again, we can think of this in a variety of ways. We could think of it as the cubed root of 27 squared, or we could separate it out, 27 to the 1/3 squared. And either way, we're thinking what cubed gives you 27. So both of these are 3 squared, and 3 squared is 9. So 32 to the 3/5. So two ways of thinking of it. The 5th root of 32 cubed, or 32 to the 1/5 cubed. So the 5th root of 32 is 2. 2 cubed is 8. And again, the 5th root, or 32 to the 1/5, that's 2. And 2 cubed, again, we have 8. So why don't you try the next couple using the root, or you could separate it out with a fraction. So now we're going to take a look at simplifying some of these. So when it's on the outside, we distribute. So this becomes 3 cubed n to the 6th. We know 3 cubed is 27, so 27n to the 6th. Number 10, if we distribute, we have y to the -8th, y to the 8th. So we can think about negative exponents. We have to move it to the bottom. So y to the 8th over y to the 8th, which is equal to 1. So if we distribute this one, we have 4 to the 3 over 2. Y, we multiply our numerators. So 4 times 3 is 12 over 2. And let's see, this one we can separate out. So the square root, or 4 to the 1/2 cubed, times y to the 6th. Well, 4 to the 1/2 square root, so 2 cubed. So we have 2 cubed y to the 6th. 2 cubed is 8y to the 6th. Number 12. So let's see, if we distribute first this 4, we have 2 to the 4th, x to the 4th, but then we still have to the -2. So if we distribute that, 2 to the -8th, x to the -8th, they're negative exponents, so it's 1 over 2 to the 8th, x to the 8th, and 2 to the 8th, 2 times 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. So let's see, that would one more, so 256 x to the 8th. When you think about number 13, we distribute. So 36 to the 1/2, x to the 6/2. 36 to the 1/2, the square root, so we have 6x cubed. 14, if we distribute, half of 2n is 1n, so b to the 1n. Half of -2n is -n. It's a negative exponent, so we have to flip it to the top. So b to the n times b to the n. And then again, we add these. So n plus n is b to the power of 2n. 15. So this is similar. We have exponents on the top and bottom. And if we had this, n to the 7th over n to the 3rd, we'd subtract them and say it's n to the 4th. This one's similar with our exponents, except we have a fraction. So n to the 1st, n to the 1/2. We take a look at our exponents, and we have to subtract. So on top, we'd have n to the 1/2, and then 2 over 4 reduces down to 1 over 2. 16. Let's see, if we multiply inside, 3 times 27, so 81 m to the 1/2 n to the 1/4 to the 4th power. And if we distribute, we'd have 81 to the 4th. M, half of 4 is 2. 1/4 times 4 is 1. 17. If we distribute the negative 1/4, that'd be f to the 4th. 256 to the negative 1/4. G to the negative 1, h to the 1. Let's see, we flip our negatives. So we'd have 256 to the 1/4. G to the 1st, f to the 4th, stays on top, divided by h to the 1st. 18. So 18, we're just multiplying these. So if we multiply, 2 times 3 is 6. If we take a look at our x's, we got 1/4 and 1/4. So x to the 2/4. And then 1/3 and 2/3, y to the 3/3. So we can say 6x to the half, y to the 1st. Our second page here, if we simplify some expressions, so we have to distribute, so 5 squared n to the 6th, n to the negative 6. Well, 5 squared is 25. If we add these, or we could flip the negative down, it doesn't matter. We could say n to the 6th over n to the 6th. So that's just 25 times 1, or 25. If we distribute the negative half here, x to the negative 1, 4 to the negative half, y to the positive 1. So we have to move our negatives, so 4 to the positive half, x to the 1st, y to the 1st. So we end up with 2 over xy. Number 9, if we distribute 64 to the 1/3, x to the 6/3, so 64 to the 1/3, 4x squared. Number 10, if we distribute 5 to the half, half of 6 is 3, half of 4 is 2. And since you can't take the square root of 5, we can leave it just like that. Now on these, I tend to write everything with exponents. So we have x squared y cubed to the half times x cubed y to the 4th to the half. So if we distribute, that's x to the 1st, y to the 3/2, times x to the 3/2, y squared. And then if we combine our x's, 3 halves and 1, so x 1.5 and 1, 2.5, 1.5 and 2 to the 3.5. And number 12, so if we distribute here, that'd be p to the 6a over 3 divided by p to the negative 3a over 3. So you have p to the 2a divided by p to the, that's not a p, p to the negative 1a. And then if we move that one to the top, we'd have p to the power of 3a. So let's look at these bottom ones here. Again, these are ones that I would rewrite with exponents. X to the 5th, y to the 6th to the 1/2. And if we distribute that, x to the 5/2, half of 6 is 3. So 14, instead of the square root, it's the 5th. So this is really 27x to the 10th, y to the 5th to the 1/5 power. If we distribute 27 to the 1/5, 10 times 1/5, so x squared, y to the 1st. And again, we can leave that because we can't take the 5th root of 27. So no number, so this is just a square root. So 144x to the 6th, y to the 10th to the half power. So we have 144 to the half, x to the 3rd, y to the 5th. 144 to the half, well that's 12x cubed, y to the 5th. 16, 21, we got c to the 7th to the 1/3. So if we distribute that, it's 21c to the 7/3. A square root one, so 1024a cubed to the 1/2 power. So 1024 to the 1/2, a to the 3/2. I don't know what the square root of 1024 is, so we could just leave it. And then a 4th root. So we have 36a to the 8th, b to the 5th to the 1/4 power. Distribute 36 to the 1/4, 8 times 1/4, or we could put 8/4 times b to the 5/4. Well, there isn't a 4th root of 36, so 36 to the 1/4, a squared, b to the 5/4. So again, these next ones are without a calculator. So our goal is same base. Same base, we set our exponents equal to each other. X plus 1 equals negative 2x plus 10. Let's add 2x. So 3x plus 1 equals 10. 3x equals 9, so x has to be 3. Our next one, we don't have bases the same, but 2 and 4 are both powers of 2. So 2 to the 3x minus 9, 2 squared to the x plus 8. So we have to distribute. So we have 3x minus 9 equals, we distribute over here, 2x plus 16. And then we just solve. So we have x equal to 25. Next one, how can we make this one the same base? So 3 to the 4x minus 7. Well, this would be 1/3 squared to the 2x minus 5. But since that's on our denominator, we know from rule of exponents, we can make that 2 negative. So there's an equivalent to 1/3 squared. And now our bases are the same. So we have 4x minus 7. We distribute here. Negative 4x plus 10. Let's see, so we have 8x equals 17 when we solve, so x equals 17/8. And I know I'm skipping a few steps there, but you guys are good at solving these linear equations. So our next one here, what are these both powers of? Well, 5. So this is 2. 2 to the 5th. To the 5 minus x equals 1/2 cubed to the 4x minus 1. So use our negative exponents, so 2 to the negative 5 to the 5 minus x equals 2 to the negative 3 to the 4x minus 1. So our bases are the same, so if we distribute here, negative 25 plus 5x equals distribute negative 12x plus 3. So we'd have 17x equals 28. So x equals 28/17. I think I did the math right. So what do we do when it's in our base? Well, this is where we raise it to that reciprocal power. So we have x equals 27 to the 2/3 because the 2's and the 3's reduce down to 1. So 27 to the 1/3 squared. So 27 to the 1/3 is 3. Well, 3 squared is 9. And number 6, one's similar, but first we have to get that base by itself. So x to the negative 3/4 equals 8. Well, now what we can do is raise it to the negative 4/3 power. So 4's and 3's, so we just have x equals 8 to the negative 4/3. And now we have to make it negative, so make it positive, 8 to the positive 4/3. Separate that out, so 8 to the 1/3 to the 4th power, so 8 to the 1/3 is 2. So 1/2 to the 4th is 1/16.